Welcome to another edition of Your Impact Attack. That's right, it's Your Impact Attack, and I hope you love it because, boy oh boy, do we have an attack of impact for you and TNA. And who is we? We are the VBC. That's right, that is the V, which is me. Hi, I'm the vet, Jamie Williams. With me, as always, is my tag team partner, Brandon. Hot tag. Could you say we are the tag team champions of the internet? I think you could say that. I don't know who is doing it better these days when it comes to TNA. Brandon, what is going on? The B Brandon.
Yeah, when it comes to TNA, I would definitely say we are the tag team champions when it comes to TNA podcast. And pal, whoop whoop, how y'all doing? Happy Monday. Make sure you sign your NDA before you come in, pal. Giggity giggity.
That's right. And we'll talk a little bit about that as we always welcome in the C. These are the people that we're talking to. That is the chat. That's right. It is the chat. They make up the chat. They are the third man in the ring and woman, and we love them, and we couldn't do the show without them. Actually, we could, but we'd rather not because they make it more fun and tolerable to talk about total nonstop action. So who do we have with us as we're just filing in, taking their seats? It's a big show tonight, Bound for Glory-esque show. They're taking their seats at the Detroit something or other field house something. Who's here with us tonight?
Let's see. Sit in front row. We got Liz. We got Lab Rat. We got Piers Austin. Good day, mate. We got Jay Hall. Hope you guys are having a great night. Whoop whoop.
That is a super team right there. Piers Austin, the legend, joining us. Even a moment of Piers Austin's spare time is worth millions. So what does that make us? We must be billionaires. Speaking of billionaires, we got some interesting. I guess let's just get this right out of the way because I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about it. But it's worth mentioning because we like to talk about the news and stuff that's going on in the world of professional wrestling. Got to touch upon it. Bad choice of words. I apologize already. So you guys may have seen that there has been a new civil lawsuit filed, and I'm using Wrestling Inc. for this, but it is the law office of DiCello, Levitt, and Murphy, Falcon and Murphy. Is that right? Okay.
Falcon Punch, pal.
That's right. So anyway, they are filing a civil lawsuit on behalf of, as they say, 5 John Does. So they're not being identified by name, I guess, in this lawsuit. At least not in these articles here. But yes, this is about the Mel Phillips stuff from the 80s and 90s, regarding the, as they are termed, and I really hate this term. I hate even saying it, ring boys. The reason I don't like it is because this is not a real term. Like, this is not anything anybody would ever say in the world. Like, if you just go out to anybody on the street and say ring boy, they're like, what the hell are you talking about? They don't know is this like a child presenting the wedding rings at the wedding, or like, what are you talking about? It doesn't make any sense, even, outside of the context of if you just know what people do here. But it's not even a thing that's like, oh yeah, this is just, yeah, we just have boys at wrestling matches do stuff. Yeah, that's just pro wrestling. It has been for 100 years. No, it's not. This is just something that happened here, like in the WWF, and I couldn't think of any reason that it could need to happen other than the reason that this lawsuit exists, to have young children around, with the with the WWF, that the only reason that you should have children around is if they're paying audience members, or if there's like charity organizations or things like that. Nobody should be working there for any reason. So anyway, this is about that. so now there's a new civil lawsuit. Attorney Greg Gutzler has been like, apparently people came forward individually, like these 5 people came forward individually. He put it together into like, one lawsuit. So that is, that is something that's going on. I don't really have much to say other than same thing we've been saying, but hopefully now everybody can get all the justice that they want and deserve. That's all I'm going to add to it. Anything you want to say on it, Brandon?
Let's just let the justice play out in court. That's right. Pretty much where I'll leave it.
Okay. All right. Well, we talked about it. Therefore, we can move on. Let's talk about some other serious stuff coming out of... Now, this is kind of... No, you know what? Let's not go serious just yet. Let's talk about a fun one. This headline: WWE Hall of Famer JBL vows to, quote, make Mexico great after joining AAA ownership. Okay. I don't know if this is a gimmick or not.
I can, from what Jeff Jarrett told me about how like the promoters and bookers and writers down there came up with his like rich gringo character who looked down upon the Mexican people, I could see this 100% being an angle that AAA came up with.
Wow. How could anyone come up with such an angle like that? That's astonishingly creative. But yeah, so they're saying he's part of the new ownership team. So whether that's a gimmick or not, that's what they're going with. So it could be just as an on-screen deal. But he has been, JBL's been making the rounds. Obviously, we're going to talk about him a little bit later on this show, in our review portion, but also GCW and MLW. So he's doing stuff, and apparently after receiving some stem cell treatments, he says he's been able to work out pain-free. So I don't know. We'll see a little bit more 57-year-old JBL matches. I don't know. We could look forward to it. What do you guys think? What do you think, Brandon? You ready for a 60-year-old man to make his in-ring return for all these great companies, or is he just going to be the just on-screen character? Maybe a clothesline here or there.
I could see him being like a mainly on-screen character, but do matches when the story calls for it.
Gotcha. Well, that is pretty much, and as the the chat is weighing in, Gam says maybe JBL becomes a Tex-Mex steakhouse owner with AAA. Liz says nopers. We gotta. So, all right. Now we gotta move on to some. Okay, let's go to this. Let's go. We actually have news tonight. It's amazing. Here's a.
Oh yeah, we gonna do some news.
WWE reportedly turned down opportunity to have AJ Styles inducted into TNA Hall of Fame. Apparently. Let's see. This is from Fightful Select. Which is the premium version of Fightful. But thankfully, I can just go to another site and just read what they report. Isn't that great how you just completely circumvent paying them money? I love the world. So supposedly, both AJ and Monty Brown were considered for this Hall of Fame induction. But they WWE passed. Nobody knows why. Nobody at Fightful knows why. Um, and then they say that perhaps because of AJ Styles' recent injury or an active storyline. So I don't know what the deal was, or possibly even you know they got WWE. They asked WWE. WWE contacted AJ Styles. Like, what do you think? I don't know if they. I don't know how these things work because sometimes people in the company could just be texting AJ Styles, and be like, "Hey, we're thinking about this." I know we were gonna ask WWE, of course, but what do you think? And then maybe they do that first, or they do that later, or whatever. But maybe WWE asks AJ Styles, and maybe AJ says no through them to take the heat off himself for whatever reason. Like if he's got a surgery scheduled or some rehab or whatever he's got going on right now with his foot, or any other reasons, like he doesn't want to do it right now or whatever the case. um Maybe he said no through them to something like that. Perhaps, I don't know, I'm not basing that on anything, just going logically. There's other things. Since Fightful's unclear, I'll offer some possible options. um but anyway, no matter what, there is the relationship with WWE and TNA, so it's not about that for whatever reason. And Styles is going over and working other promotions like Noah in Japan, so it's not about not working promotions. It definitely seems like something that they would do, that would happen. Maybe it just wasn't in the cards for this for this year. We did get two good inductions that deserve to be in the TNA Hall of Fame for sure. Um, but that was one. And then, of course, Fightful doesn't have anything else about Monty Brown's consideration or any of the circumstances surrounding that, because who cares about him? Just one of the greatest ever, for a short period of time. The Proto Moose, even. But even though he's completely different than Moose. But yeah, so yeah, they've got nothing to offer about that. So there's that. What do you think? AJ Styles, TNA, WWE, Hall of Fame? What are we doing here?
I think AJ appearing in TNA might have been the original plan and could still be the plan, and just kind of on hiatus with him being injured. So they did that thing where he was speaking in front of a group of people, and somebody, like a specific question was asked of him about going back to TNA, and he said he would definitely be open to it. And then when he came back, the night he got injured, he talked about rebuilding the phenomenal AJ Styles. That could have easily been a tease of, well, I'm going back to where I started.
Could have been.
And then him getting hurt kind of put on the back burner, and that him getting inducted in the Hall of Fame could have been like a culmination of that storyline.
Mm-hmm.
But because he got hurt, it's like, yeah, let's not blow that now.
Mm-hmm. Maybe if you work up to next year, that would
it could even be an even better story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, far be it from WWE to hot shot anything or jump the gun, or TNA for that matter. No, TNA has the opposite problem. They never do anything. They need to hot shot something. Anyway, so that's that. All right, now let's move on to some more, unfortunate stuff. During the Impact tapings of last night, they suffered two injuries on this set of tapings. First, Chris Bay. Apparently, it says here on on this Wrestling Inc. article, says that the show was immediately brought to an end on his injury. And Fightful Select again has says that he went to the hospital and underwent surgery already. So it was a neck injury, is what happened there, and it says details will remain private for now. So this was during the main event, which would have been the ABC challenging for the tag team championship against the Hard Boys. And I guess that was that. So we may not even, I don't know how they're going to handle that, if they're even going to air the match, depending on the severity of this injury and how bad it was. But yeah. First I heard of it was, let's put it this way. First I heard of it was I was on Instagram and I saw a CM Punk Instagram story saying, you know, we're all thinking about Chris Bay right now. And I was like, what the fuck happened to Chris Bay? And I hadn't even watched the ladder match yet. So the whole ladder match, I was watching it and like, oh my God, Chris Bay's going to get hurt in this. And then it looked like he did, but it wasn't what I thought it was. We'll talk about that during the review portion of it. But yes, apparently this was from last night's TNA taping. So hopefully Chris Bay's okay. But also, and this is extremely unfortunate, ironic, not surprising in the least, but Hijo del Vikingo also hurt again. Apparently, leg injury during a match with Trent Seven on these tapings. So he did a springboard corkscrew dive to the outside and hit the ground hard. Yep. And he has just been out for like a long time. I don't remember how long it's time. This feels like it's been almost a year since he got injured and just came back. Oh wait, February? He had surgery in February and just came back at the end of September. And he's out again.
I guess some of these guys got to have a Shibata-like situation where you're like staring death in the face and realize, hey, I got to kind of tone my work down and view more of a character gimmick style to preserve my health and longevity and not die.
He can't do it. No, because I you know, when I heard this news, it was actually told to me by somebody else, and I was talking with them, and I was explaining, like, this guy cannot, he has nothing. All he does is corkscrew twisting stuff, right? Like, he has no character, he has no charisma, he doesn't sell, he small, no muscles, nothing. Like, the only thing he does is set up for spots where he flips and twists. You know, like, doesn't really do wrestling matches. Basically, this is a guy who, and I you know what, whatever, who cares how it sounds. This is a guy who, like, what his calling in life, right, is he is supposed to be, with his abilities, he is supposed to be a high diver. He should be jumping off of diving boards and trying to land in swimming pools to win medals. Yes. He should be medaling in the Olympics for the amounts of flips and twists he could do. And then when you hit the water, there's less risk of breaking your neck or leg or any other stuff that he does, because it's the water and he's diving in it. So that's his calling in life, to do this, because like all those other high divers, he exhibits no other athletic skills. He just jumps, twists, and flips, and nothing else. Only problem is he's going to make a lot more money in wrestling because there are no pro diving leagues. You can't make any money doing that for a career. You can only win an Olympic gold medal, and then what? That's it. So Once you've done that, you can't have like your regular career. So that's why he's in wrestling, because you can't make money as a high diver. But that's what he belongs doing. And this is it, because even if this is your one thing, like all I can do is flippy twists, if you can't land safely, fuck. What good are you? And your opponents are going to want to be there for it. They're going to want to let you land on them when you can't even protect yourself. You're going to want to, they're supposed to take it for you. Like they're supposed to let you land on them. They're supposed to catch you. No, man. No. Sorry. I know that Conan is really high on Vikingo, but I've not seen anything ever in any of his matches that tells me that he's anything but a liability. It'd be one thing if I could say, oh yeah, he does these things, but man, he could throw a wicked punch, or or he sells his ass off. Like, oh man, he really has the crowd in the palm of his hand, like cheering for him and everything. Like when he's reaching out, like Hulk Hogan would reach out. Oh brother, oh, no, he don't do nothing. He don't do nothing. There's nothing. He's got nothing. He's a series of disconnected twists and flips. Sorry to kick him when he's down, but I'm just saying that because that's what's apparent to me. So if he's not gonna make the decision himself, what it sounds like is that gravity is gonna make, and I'm not talking about the luchador gravity. Gravity's gonna, the literal gravity is gonna make the decision for him, apparently. So get well soon. To both him and Chris Bay. I'm sorry, what do you have to say about, both these guys, or, the situation?
Man, it sucks. Like the way you kind of just laid out Chris Bay, like it sounds like what happened with him. It sounded like they're kind of getting immediate Owen Hart vibes, it sounded like, because they, shut down the show and people were freaking out, and that's kind of what that sounds like a little bit, which is pretty scary, but hopefully he's okay. And I haven't heard any updates on that.
Yeah, I think I hope everything is good with Chris, because he does have other things besides flips. He's not even primarily like a flipping guy. He kind of just an all-rounder, But
right, like the flips are just part of what he brings to the table.
Right. So I definitely it's nothing to do with, my thoughts on Vikingo is nothing to do with I want him to be healthy and happy as well. I don't want anything bad to happen to him. But in order for me to get my wish, he's probably going to have to retire from pro wrestling. And now it may be too late for a high diving career. So I don't know.
Yeah, all the best for both.
All right, so that's basically our news that we have to talk about, unless you had anything else.
Nope, not really.
All right, then let's get shaking and baking on the total nonstop action. Let me just pull that. Let's do this. That. All right, so this is the Impact from October 24th. Of course, we're going to start with our traditional Heinz, even perhaps
DQ, but I'm sure they use Heinz. Let's pretend they do.
All right, ketchup packet here so that we all know what's going on. And we're starting out with a 6-way match. to determine the 20th spot in the Call Your Shot Gauntlet Battle Royal thing. Your 6 competitors are AJ Francis, Jake Something, Jason Hotch, Sammy Callahan, Frankie Kazarian, The King, and Laredo Kid. These guys. I don't know who's gonna win, who's gonna take it. It's anybody's match, and it looks like it's gonna be Frankie Kazarian, except that AJ Francis comes in and kicks him and pins Sammy Callahan at the last second to steal it, and he will be coming out 20th in the Call Your Shot Gauntlet. So yeah, that was that, and yeah. Any particular thoughts on the number one contender or number one contender's 20th spot Call Your Shot Gauntlet Battle Royal?
I mean, it was what it was. I mean, 6 guys getting their shit in for what time they had, and then someone goes over.
Yep, that's right. Great start to the show. Jonathan Gresham is with Gia, no music underneath. He had to remember who the hell he is, which is that his way of saying we're not doing these vignettes anymore and no more ink spitting? But he has a nose ring. Do you remember that his wife also has a nose ring and he wants to do matchy? But anyway, he's gonna make that comeback on Josh Alexander tonight. So there you go. Nice wrestling promo for you guys from Jonathan Gresham. Do you think, are you getting the sense that he's just trying to pun intended wash his hands of the ink gimmick?
Could be, or he could be kind of like dropping breadcrumbs that it's still there as kind of on the back burner for now. We kind of don't really know for now. Like it's one of those things we kind of got to see play out.
Well, I mean, they're not even referencing it anymore, and they're not known for their subtlety, so I just assume it would be very TNA-ish to just completely drop it. No explanation. Liz says, hey, he got certified on how to do extension now. I can do her hair, so maybe his next gimmick will be a stylist. Yeah, I can think of another guy I would call, too, if I wanted to do that. He recently popped back up in the wrestling world. Mike Santana's a tour guide for the Lower East Side. So if you want to see where he grew up, watch this episode. Then we go to speaking of stylists, our launch party by Elegance. Because remember, we were supposed to see a makeover for Heather Reckless, and they completely screwed it off last week and didn't even mention it. But now we're ready to show it, not at the pay-per-view, because Ash has nothing on the pay-per-view, but now we're going to show it here, and they have this little table with stuff on, champagne and everything, like bowls of champagne.
You like punch bowls with champagne in it.
Yeah, like have you ever seen that in your life? Is that a thing people do? I wonder why they have punch bowls with champagne in them. 2 of them. Because here comes Heather by Elegance, and surprise, surprise, not only does she look like Ash, but she really doesn't look that different than she looked before. She's just wearing a dress now. Sonic says, feels good to be back chilling and chatting with my peoples here. Where you been? Quit leaving.
Where you been?
Yeah. Yeah, you don't even have to sign any NDAs to be here, really, despite what Brandon says. You actually don't have to. So yeah, so the crowd when she came out started chanting basic white girl, which was funny. And then Zaya Brookside and Brinley Reese come out, and they crash the party, and I wonder what those bowls of champagne were for. Oh, they were for dunking the new twins' faces into and ruining them. So, yeah. Take that. Take that, basic white girls.
Well, I mean, to be fair, that's kind of what I'd expect to see when I'm a basic white girl if I go to a club.
What, getting their heads slammed into bowls of champagne?
No, just what they look like.
Oh, yeah, okay. No, I don't have a problem with the crowd chanting basic white girl. That's not the problem. The problem is that this is our payoff for having to sit through content.
Yeah. It should have been, it should have been built up to more and actually done on pay-per-view. Like you do the tease, like a 1 minute tease vignette on the go home and say, hey, tune in Bound for Glory to see it.
Yeah. Well, I definitely would have gave this away for free. I mean, nobody would have to pay to see this.
True, it probably would have been better for try to boost ratings than anything.
Yeah. Or how about the nice pre-show? Why not the kickoff, you know? The countdown. The kickoff countdown pre-show. Why not that, you know? Maybe you'll feel like purchasing Bound for Glory if you see basic white girls dunked in champagne. Who knows? I don't know. I prefer champagne. That's champagne and Ripple. Yes. Fred Sanford loved Ripple. I don't know if Josh Alexander or Jonathan Gresham love Ripple, but they have a match. And this is about being obviously it's being about being a great wrestler. Unfortunately, Josh Alexander is not about that anymore, and that's why he just hits Jonathan Gresham with an object that he pulled out of his knee pad and gives him the C4. And then he and the Northern Armory start beating the shit out of him. And then Burt Macklin comes out to save his best friend Jonathan Gresham, or just to get a piece of Josh Alexander is the real reason. And he gets swarmed. And then finally, Cody Deaner and Sami Callihan and Ace Steel even, and a bunch of security come out to get rid of this menace and his two little menaces. So there you go. What do you think about this match, this post-match angle, which is just like every post-match angle, except sometimes it depends how over you are, the speed the security responds to such things.
That was weird. Like, Sami Callihan and Cody Deaner, what do they have to do with any of this? Like, hey, where's two guys? Just, hey, you two, get out there.
Yep. That's it. That's it. We need two baby faces. It's what the people wanted, apparently. That must have been it, right? Yeah. Gross says, fun fact, Josh Matthews is the executive producer of TNA. There's nothing fun about that fact. Not one little bit. Actually explains a lot. More Santana vignette.
Yeah,
then we get...
Yeah, we were robbed of not seeing him and Ariana working together this week.
Santana. Brandon, Santana.
Or Santino.
Santino.
Oh.
Santana. Yes. I know they look alike, but you know who else looks like? Dark Windy. She's taking on Jody Threat. They have a match. There's a distraction with the pillow. Rosemary just hucks the pillow into the ring, and everybody's like, what the hell? And then Wendy hits the full Nelson slam and beats Jody Threat. So there you go. Obviously, that means with this strong win over one half of the tag team champions, it's basically all but signed, sealed, and delivered that they're going to win the Knockouts titles at Bound for Glory, right?
Hold on one second. I got to deal with something. Family issues.
Got it. All right. So next we get a system promo, and their promos come with music underneath. And then we get the main event, sort of, with ABC and the Hardys taking on the system, which is, of course, the great Moose and three other guys. They hit the fold on JDC for the win, and then the system uses the deadliest move in pro wrestling, the heat back.
Sorry about that. I'm back.
He's back. I was just saying how the system used the deadliest move in pro wrestling after the match. You can only use it after the match is over. It's called the heat back, right? You got to use the heat back, which is you just lose and then you just do whatever you could have done in the match, but you do it now. So they beat up everybody, and then the Santana comes out and starts hitting guys with a chain, but then they eventually take over on him, and then they leave him and the Hardys messed up. I didn't see ABC anymore. They must have slunk out when nobody was looking. But that was basically your main event. It was an 8-man tag. As far as the match was concerned, that wasn't the end of the show, but yeah. And then Santino presides over the double contract signing, which is, we got Joe Hendry and Dolph Ziggler, and then you got for the TNA Championship, and then you got for the Knockouts Championship, you got Masha Slamovich and Jordan Grace. So it's all baby faces here. Nobody will be going through any tables, or will they? Because who crashes the party but the king of TNA, Frankie Kazarian? And he talks shit about everybody, and eventually they all get tired of it, and he gets cobra'd by Santino, and he gets tabled by the other four. So there you go. A contract signing where none of the participants end up through the table.
It's different.
Right. So.
Also, too, like if, again, some kind of weird psychological thing is it could be because they do a title change with Jordan and Masha. You kind of bind the world title to that. It's like, okay, if that title flipped, well, this one flipped too.
Right. Well, it is, that brings us to Bound for Glory. We were bound for it, and now we're here for it. It's here. And we are making excellent record progress here in our Impact Attack, so I like this. But who knows how long it'll take from now. So we got the Countdown Show. Did you catch the Countdown Show by any chance?
Just the Call Your Shot gauntlet.
Okay. Well, before that, we did get Ash and Heather by Elegance versus Zaya and Brinley Reese from NXT. Well, Brinley Reese is from NXT. Zaya used to be from NXT UK. Anyway, they have a tag team match, and while Zaya is busy outside choking the concierge with his own jacket, that leaves the other two to hit both their finishers on Brinley Reese and beat her. So, good guest spot for Brinley Reese, the bootleg Thea Hale. And then we get the Hall of Fame inductions on right here on the show, which was Bob Ryder and Rhino, as we may have mentioned before. No AJ Styles. Eric Young inducted, the late Bob Ryder, told some nice stories. Tommy Dreamer inducted Rhino, of course. Both the guys had, Eric Young had a nice little speech. Rhino had a nice speech. Ketchup. So That was that was nice. And then you'll see like little clips of it later. And then they played a trailer for one of their sponsors, which is a movie called Eye of the Salamander. And you didn't see this trailer, did you?
Nope.
Bro, this looks like it has special effects on the level of a PCO vignette. And when it said, coming to theaters or whatever, the first thing I thought was, no, the fuck it isn't. And the second thing was, I could hear the audio of the crowd laughing at it when, when the music and everything stopped. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Is it possible that could be the intention? It's supposed to be like a parody of something, whatever it is supposed to be parodying.
It was if you guys want to laugh, go look up a trailer for Eye of the Salamander. I mean, we could probably play it here. I think they need the publicity. I don't think they would try to strike us, but let's just not watch it. You guys can watch it though. All right. Burt Macklin thanks Eric Young for whatever, and Eric Young says, "I've got your back tonight." And then we get the Call Your Shot gauntlet match. It is Kazarian and Zachary Wentz to start the gauntlet match, which is a Royal Rumble, basically. And then from there, we get, these are the participants in order: Jake Something, Trey Miguel, Hammerstone, Rohit Raju for some reason, Laredo Kid, Sammy Callahan, John Schuyler, Bhupinder Gujar, Trent Seven, KC Navarro, Rhino, and then Tasha Steelz coming in here. It's like, well, Jordan Grace can do it, I can do it. And then Lei Ying Lee right after. So you had the two women just back to back, I guess, which is whatever. Jason Hotch, Leon Slater, Jonathan Gresham, JDC, and then of course we know that AJ Francis comes in at number 20. He does not make it down to the last two. It's actually a nice feel-good moment where you think Rhino is going to win. But then when it comes down to the last two guys and it becomes a singles match, Frankie Kazarian kicks Rhino in the balls and just pins him, and that's it. So Frankie Kazarian wins the Call Your Shot Gauntlet Battle Royal. It's possible that I may have missed something, but did he just kick him in the balls right in front of the referee? Or are there no DQs in the singles match at the end?
That's actually a good question. I don't know.
Okay. Does anybody know? Does anybody happen to us? Nobody saw this. I don't know why I'm asking. I don't even know why I'm bothering. So yeah. That was the pre-show. Okay, what's a question? I don't even want to read that name. Johnny Autism Wrestling. I'm not bringing politics up. What do you think about NXT moving to the next night on the election night? I know they're going to beat AEW in the rating at night. AEW sucks. I don't know. I don't think anything of it because I just heard about it right now. Because that's how much I think about wrestling outside of doing these shows, is knowing what nights they're going to be on. Especially since I don't have to watch them on the nights that they're on. I watch them when I get a chance to watch them. And that's all. You have any thoughts?
I mean, I think it's smart from a ratings point of view because they know they ain't outdrawing the news stations. That's for sure that night. Like they got no chance in hell of getting, like, all their viewers are going to that.
Right. Yeah, if you want to say like AEW is now pulling in the lower 600,000s on TBS, which is on cable, and NXT is pulling in the mid 600,000s on basic television on the CW. They had the debuts that were like 800 something thousand for the first 2 episodes of NXT on CW, and then they immediately lost about a third of their audience because they watched the show probably and were like, I ain't watching this. So there you go. Now they're doing equalish ratings per week on, on 2 different nights, but they're also ones on network. So the one on network should easily draw higher numbers, and they're not. So NXT's got to step up they got to step up their game. Let's talk Bound for Glory now. Somebody named Ilona sang the national anthem. I skipped that. Now we get Vikingo versus Mike Bailey for the X Division title. Now, I already cut a promo on Vikingo, and this is basically all that I have to say about a match like this, because this is the kind of match that people will say you have to go out of your way to see, because these guys do stuff to each other, and it's like amazing. And I see those things, and some of those things are athletically amazing. But these are the things I see that I feel like those people either don't see or refuse to see. Number one, Vikingo on a double down. They both do a devastating move, and they're both on the mat, supposed to be selling, and Vikingo's just lying there, and he just reaches back, adjusts his ponytail, like he sits his head up, adjusts his ponytail, and then goes back to just laying there. Another spot, okay. So Vikingo gets up on the ring post. He's standing on the ring post, balancing on the ring post, right? Mike Bailey is on the apron, and Vikingo jumps off the ring post and does a Canadian Destroyer to Mike Bailey on the apron. Now that's easily a hospitalization angle if you wanted to do that, but
30 seconds later, Mike Bailey hits his finish. We're going home, pal.
You are not far off. It was 1 minute and 26 seconds later. He goes from taking a Canadian Destroyer on the apron to winning the match with his finish in 1 minute, 26 seconds. So that includes all the selling and all the setup time that would take, because the finish was I apparently the announcers knew what this move was, because they called it something. I've never seen this before in my life. It was some sort of a top rope fisherman suplex salt. Whatever. It beat Vikingo. That's all that matters. And it only took less than a minute and a half after he got his neck broken on the apron. But also, just as a bonus, like if it wasn't enough that that's what happened in this match, to just completely throw all your credibility out of the window, but right after he took the Canadian Destroyer, they had a nice close-up. They made sure to get a nice close-up of the referee coming over to check on Bailey, and him visibly nodding and verbally confirming that he's okay to the referee right there as the camera's on him, and not even like a facial expression. Like, you can ventriloquist this thing a little bit. Like, you could be selling and just say, yeah. That way, even if the fans in the front row hear you, it sounds like you're, I'm hurt. But I guess he didn't feel it was necessary. So he was just like, so the referee's like, are you okay? And he's like, oh, yeah. Just like Vikingo with the hair adjustment. So this is why I fuck both these guys. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't care all the moves that you do. It gets undone when you do stuff like that. if you can do all those cool moves and get me invested in it, in the realism, then that's a great wrestler. If you're just taking turns doing stuff, that's a gymnastics routine. It's not even a gymnastics routine. You know? It's because gymnastics routine don't get interrupted. You got to keep doing the whole thing. You know? And the judges don't come over to verbally confirm with you if you're okay after you stick the landing or whatever it is. Just these guys should be diving. These guys should be diving. Is what it is. That's what I think about it. But what do you think about it?
Thank God this is the only match like this on the show. But yeah, just absolutely ridiculous. Like, wait, hold on. You just took a Canadian destroyer on the apron from a guy jumping off the top rope. And then, like you said, what was a minute 26 later, he's going over with his finish clean. Nah, bro. That makes no sense.
Yeah, did they go too long earlier? They were the first match, so it's not like anybody else could have made them go long, right? So, I don't know, man. Hey, look, the guys worked hard. A little too hard. In other ways, in the simplest things they had to do, they didn't work hard enough. But, you know, and all the stuff where you have to help each other and balance and set up and do all this other stuff, they worked really hard. And nobody got hurt here.
Thankfully.
Yeah. I mean,
well, the next night, that's a different story.
Right, yes. So, Jimmy T in the house. Is Bound for Glory worth watching? Seriously, because I've been itching to do so. We've been reviewing it, Jimmy T, while you've been in here just bullshitting with everybody. So, you can maybe be able to gauge whether we should or not. But if you've been itching to do it, there's nothing stopping you. Well, let's see if this will get Jimmy T to want to watch it. Rosemary and Dark Wendy versus Spitfire for the Knockouts Tag Team Championships. Should I pass it to you first?
I was really, really hoping for the title change. Not happy we didn't see it, but I think there is some potential and some good material we can get out of babyface Wendy Choo and heel Rosemary.
No, there isn't. No, there isn't. There's nothing we could get out of there. I think it's just basically they're sending her back to where she works. There's not going to be a babyface turn. What babyface? She already was a babyface, and that's why she's this now. It's not like she had this gimmick the whole time. She used to just be a nice girl that liked to take naps. Now she's a dark girl that likes to take naps. Well, anyway, oddly enough, Rosemary had the match won because she hit the spear on Danny Luna, and on 2, she pulled Danny Luna up as the referee was counting so that they could do more stuff. And then they did more stuff, and Spitfire got back on top, and then they hit the pressure drop on Wendy, and then Rosemary turns on Wendy by spearing her afterwards, after the babyfaces got out of the ring or whatever. So the person that purposely lost them the match when she had it won has the nerve to turn on her partner, who booked that. And furthermore, why would you do anything with these two after? Like, who do you want to? What do you want to see from them?
Yeah, like, what else is there? Like, that's pretty much the roadblock. Bad booking, bad booking. Like, if you're doing the interpromotional thing, like, that's a title you could do it with. You have an interpromotional team, and you put one of the women's tag team titles on them. It creates enough of a buzz.
Sorry, Spitfire ain't it. So you might as well do something intriguing, you know? But Gia finds Kaz reading Hebner's book, brushing up on his referee skills. And then Burt Macklin versus Josh Alexander. It starts out hot on the ramp, but it ends up with a ref bump and then a low blow, which allows him to zip tie. Josh Alexander allows Josh Alexander to zip tie Burt's hands behind his back. And then when the referee comes back around, he's like, hey, why is this guy's hand zip tied behind his back? And he tries to get him out of it.
To be fair, at least the ref kind of did his job. Like, hey, get me some bolt cutters or some clippers, something to get him out of here. They at least got that right.
Sure. You know,
trying to be positive, Frank. You be positive. I'll be realistic.
Yeah. So he tries to cut him out of it and not just disqualify Josh Alexander, but because it would. I can't prove it was you because I was out, so I'm not going to disqualify you. It's just a man zip tied. Maybe he did it to himself. I don't know. I'm a stupid TNA ref, so it's possible.
Though to be fair, like the actual logical thing would be the ref throws it out because this is clearly interference cheating using outside objects to basically tilt the deck.
Right.
Like there's no way this match could continue fairly. Like you got to throw it out.
Yep. So anyway, he tries to do it, and Bert's like, "No, don't do it. I can beat him with two hands tied behind my back." Apparently, is what he thinks, and he makes a no-hand comeback. He's able to hit the. He's able to crotch Josh Alexander. Why he was up on the top rope, I don't know, but he crotches him there, and he goes down, and he hits the caught in the crosshairs on him, hits some running knees, hits something stuff. He's just doing stuff with no hands until he finally. Oh, this is the best part. When Josh finally gets the ankle lock, right on no hands Burt, he passes out. He passed out in an ankle lock. He passed out. Not, the referee stopped it. Like, look, this has gone on long enough. I'm not doing this anymore. And it still should have been, like you said, it still should have been thrown out. Like, okay, the match is over. You know, you're not making this. I'm not going to give Josh Alexander the win because clearly he cheated somehow. So I'm not going to just award him the win. I'm just going to, throw the match out. No contest. No, not that. But also, I'm going to pass out in an ankle lock. The move that doesn't hurt until you break the guy's knee. There is no passing out in an ankle lock. You either snap the guy's ankle or you don't. That's it. The whole move is a warning to you. And I know people like to use it. I know Shawn Michaels and Kurt Angle used it for like 20 minutes in their match, like of Kurt Angle not breaking Shawn Michaels' ankle, but it doesn't work that way, guys. It does not work that way. You can't use a joint lock as a pass out. It just doesn't work. Everybody knows what I mean, right? I don't have to re-explain it for the 100th time on these shows.
Unless the joint lock is somehow you making the dude smoke a joint up some super indica that puts you to sleep.
Yeah, I don't. Well, do you disqualify somebody for doing drugs in the ring? Is that a DQ?
Performance enhancing drugs, pal.
Yeah. Or dehancing. Whatever it is. Yeah. Please explain. Okay, Chris, I'll explain. Um, when you have things that are like when you have joint locks that are meant for submission in combat sports, like the ankle lock or heel hook or kimura, or whatever it is, where you're basically, what you do is you threaten that if the person does not give up, you will break the joint, bone, whatever it is that's being targeted. So that's why in MMA people are like, okay, I can't get out of it, and now I'm going to give up because there's no hope. It's not a question of being in pain, because I can there's no way for me to explain this if you don't understand without actually doing it to you. But for the ankle lock, for example, you grab the front of the foot and the heel, and you turn it, right, which causes your knee to, like, I don't know exactly. I'm not a fucking I don't even know what the name of the kinesiologist, but um it, all I know is when you twist that thing, it really messes you up. So it's the threat of disfigurement, and then you have to decide whether that's worth it. And guys in MMA have been put in submission holds that they did not submit, and they've had their arms broken before. I'm sure MMA fans could point to some famous ones. The names are escaping me right now, but I've seen it. Like, a guy would have him in like an arm bar, and he would pick up the guy the same way you would do in a pro wrestling match with like a power bomb, where like you just lift the guy up who has your arm. And I saw him do that, and his arm snapped at the elbow, and it just hung limp. And then the referee had to stop the match because the guy didn't quit when he had the chance to quit. But up until that moment, it's not like you're in pain. It's like it's the same thing as like anything that you do. If you if you start bending your finger back the wrong way, and then when you get to a certain point, you're like, okay, I can't go past this point. But you doing this, like, right at the point where it's going to break or whatever, is like, you're not going to pass out from that.
It's going to snap.
Right. And with the Austin moment at WrestleMania 13, which everybody tries to recreate, he was bleeding. There was blood loss. And it was a painful maneuver because the sharpshooter is not necessarily a joint lock. You're folding the guy backwards. So it puts immense pressure on your spine, and that amount of pressure on your spine, it's not the same as like a single joint where you just, there's a whole nervous system connected to your spine. So you're in pain when you're in the sharpshooter, constant pain. And that's why you give up in that, because you want the pain to end, or he could break your spine. But it's a little bit different than a single joint, because with the single joint, it doesn't really hurt. You do it to warn them, like, I got you. That's what they do. They don't just, if a guy in a pro wrestling match refused to give up, then Josh Alexander, just snap it. Just snap it. And then the guy's knee's broken and whatever. So that's why the psychology of it is bad. So anyway, that was that. Is the Rings of Saturn painful? Apparently, according to everybody that's been in it, it is. I think Stevie Richards just did not too long ago, did an episode about guys' finishers and what hurt and what didn't on a pain scale. And he said when he put the Rings of Saturn on, Rings of Saturn is a variation of the sugar hold, which is a popular thing that guys used to do in the old days when they'd stretch people. But yeah. Let's see. Okay, now we're starting to do now we're in the portion of the show where each match gets like a package to catch you up. And now it's time for wait. This was a Monsters Ball match? With PCO and Cardona?
Yep, with nothing like Monsters Ball. Basically, it's just a regular ass hardcore match.
Yeah, no sensory deprivation for 24 hours. No. Oh,
One person I was reading was theorizing that it was a Scott D'Amore thing that he made sure to include with the build up to it, or like just like clips of it, which would make sense because we last one we had it was there and he was there.
and why the hell do you need to get rid of it then? But you didn't have the night vision camera, so you just didn't do it.
I guess that was his.
He brought his own. Scott Demore brought his own night vision camera. Don't people's phones have a filter on it that can do that? Like, does your photo app have like some night vision filter? Everybody check your phones right now. Anyway, I can't check mine because I'm using it with my notes. Anyway, yeah. Look, if Brandon wants to comment on this match, fine. All I'm gonna say is that PCO wins after some stupid shit you've seen 100 times this year alone. Like the amount of stuff in this match that you've already seen a bunch of times and you're probably sick of. It was just more of that. Even the taking a spine bump onto the stairs or whatever. I mean, Drew McIntyre did that in the Hell in a Cell match in a different way, but essentially the same thing. It's just nothing you haven't seen before, literally. So
I was expecting to take a little bit further, like some of the stuff we've been seeing on Lions, Tigers, Bears, and Head.
well, they're not going to go that crazy.
And thankfully they didn't.
And Cardona, used to be like the whole joke about Qdoba was that he called himself the king of the death match after having one death match and just going around saying he's the king of the death match. But if you keep having them, that gimmick means nothing. You're basically a somewhat of a comedic heel that can be somewhat credible. So if you do one death match and win it and say you're the king of the death match and then never do one again, that really works for you, brother. But
or it could be
this,
or you could like build up a storyline too, where somebody's trying to goad him into getting into another death match, and then he eventually does it, and that guy goes over Cardona and he gets made.
Right. And then that's his out. Like, I don't have to ever bring up death matches again. I can just go back to normal wrestling. But apparently, he likes it because he keeps doing it, and he keeps doing this. And he wore his Ghostbusters jumpsuit. So that means that, his bump in the thumbtacks really isn't that impactful because it's covered. It was wet when he came out. Like, that jumpsuit was wet. And I was like, is he going to get set on fire? Because the last time we saw somebody come out obviously wet was like Jack Perry. And like, I was just wondering if they were going to do something really stupid. Because I was looking at Matt Cardona and the rest of his body wasn't particularly wet, but his jumpsuit was wet. So I'm like, why is he wet? Is he going to set himself on fire? You better not. He didn't. But yeah. Anyway. Any other you want to recap any of the stupid stuff they did or
Compared to what I was expecting, it came off pretty tame.
Okay.
Like I thought they were both going to go out like it's Bound for Glory, Monsters Ball. They're going to do like an all-out death match, which we saw elements of it, but they didn't really do some of the crazy, ridiculous shit that we've seen so far, which thankfully they didn't.
Thankfully. Well, the thankfulness ends here because next is another package, and then we get Santana versus Moose. Now, I'll be honest. Not that I'm ever not honest. I was pretty sure how this match was going to end. So that part wasn't as disappointing because I braced myself for it. However, what I didn't expect was um Santana. Did you notice in this match that Santana missed several things? Whether it was timing wise, positioning wise. I say it's him because, I mean, we see all these Moose matches. These don't happen in most of them. Most of the guys that he's worked with in TNA, that have been in TNA for a long time and that he knows, they all come off pretty well. But then in his first match with Dolph, there was some awkward shit, and it was Dolph's fault. And then he's in this match with Santana, and I really don't see I don't see how it was Moose's fault. Like, for example, there was some smaller stuff earlier, but then toward the end, when Moose does the what the hell was that when Moose went for the go to hell, like the sky high off the top rope, and it looked like Santana just went completely sideways, and like it almost like he thought he was going to reverse this in midair or something. And then he didn't.
Yeah, that did look. Yeah, looked like some sort of miscommunication or something.
Have you ever seen Moose do that to anybody else? That's never happened to anybody else. Now you got to really trust the guy. You know, you got to really trust Moose on that move that he's going to take care of you. And this was like, looked like Santana flew out of his hands, like on his own. Like, I don't know what he thought he was doing, but that was messed up. And then there was another spot where he's supposed to powerbomb Santana on the apron, and Santana never really let go of the ropes. Like, he completely kayfabed him on this powerbomb, and he just went down in the apron in a heap sideways. Like, I don't understand. I don't understand.
That sounds like he was having nerves that night.
It does. It kind of like, these are kind of mistakes that you would make when you're just not locked in. So,
which I can understand. Okay, I'm going over Moose. Like this is the match that elevates me to the next level. I can see somebody being nervous, but at the same time, though, you can't let that get to you, because this is your time to step up and show that you deserve to be there.
That's what it was supposed to be. You know, I mean, we gone from Moose being the TNA champion to just being a guy to help Santana get over, which I don't see any money there personally, but hey, it's your guys' company. Do whatever you want. But like, I just don't, I think you're investing in the wrong guy. Is what I think. Basically, I don't think Moose should have ever he should have never lost the championship to this point. I mean, how are you supposed to get attention on TNA or grow the company? You've seen how well having a championship for a long time worked for Roman Reigns and WWE, because people were talking about that. Granted, TNA is not WWE, but it's also just TNA and nothing else has changed. So I don't think any business has necessarily gone up because of Dolph Ziggler. It's just because whatever, they're just, more people are showing up to the shows. And I'll explain that later on, when we talk about his match. But anyway, yeah, and then not only that, you gotta kick out a Moose's spear. I mean, God, that's part of making a guy, right? How's everybody supposed to know that this is a good main event guy if he can't kick out of a finisher? So yeah, so then JDC tries to interfere and he gets dealt with, and then he hits the spin the block on Moose and wins. Now, we're biased for Moose. Like there's no doubt about that. He's as much of a part he's as much of a part society made me laugh. Hold on, I'll get to that in a second. Um he's as much of a part of this show as anything. Moose is like the third man on this show. So, yes, we're biased. I'm biased. But even yeah, even if you want to take everything I said out of the equation, like I'm just a hater, I'm just biased for Moose and I just don't want Santana, whatever. Well, don't take my word for it because the crowd was not solidly behind Santana in this match. There were dueling chants for Santana and Moose, and when he won, it wasn't like a huge pop or anything. And there were some boos. Like people were not happy about it. So I'm not the only one who's not convinced. The people spoke that night, and yeah. So it's not just us. You know,
That might be one of those things that kind of like, let's kind of just gauge this by crowd reaction and let it grow organically.
yeah.
But
Well, it's
are they going to
organic.
do that though?
It's organically growing mold. I think is what it really is. Um, Jimmy T says, "You guys think Moose will ever make an appearance in WWE? Psh, ever? No. They don't even want to use the black people they have. They're not gonna bring in Moose." So we get another package. Then we get Jordan Grace versus Masha Slamovich. I wanted to like this match. I really did. But one thing that disappointed me was it seems like Masha has taken classes at the Seth Rollins University of Selling, which means that you could do whatever you want in a match as long as you grab your knee in pain afterwards. No matter what. I'll springboard off the ropes as long as I grab my knee afterwards.
I forgot what match it was, but I remember seeing a Superplex DVD. It said Superplex Falcon Zero.
Oh, nice. Switching it up. Well, and the finish of this match was hitting some off the top rope and then immediately picking Jordan Grace up for another one's. Because she hit a top rope snowplow and then she just picked up Jordan Grace and it hit some kind of pile driver and then beat her.
Right, because hitting your finisher off the top rope doesn't finish people anymore.
No.
No, not as a desperation of the rare time they do kick out of your finish, so you got to amp it up till you take it to the next level to actually get it done.
Right. We got to make sure. We got to make absolutely sure. So, like I said, the women had a good match. I guess if you take psychology and everything out of it, the stuff they did look good, particularly a reversal when Masha went for like some kind of hook kick and Jordan caught her into some suplex that Taz would have been proud of. Like that looked really good. So they did good stuff in the match. And but I think Masha's getting farther away from her good basic roots, like her Johnny Rod's training roots, and getting into some more of this modern shit, this Seth Rollins knee selling and lots of rope running and screaming and turning your back and doing that kind of stuff. Like she didn't used to do a lot of that. She did a lot in this match, but it got her the belt. So, is it a little too late, Brandon, or can they make it right now?
I think they can, but they got the work cut out for them.
We'll see.
Decent match. Good to see Masha, finally go over and kind of win the big one.
Yeah. right after the worst booked year of her career. This is the problem. It's like when somebody wins a big championship or even a minor championship, you do want to feel like that was an inevitable road that they traveled. Like they beat all these people along the way. They look good doing it. People got behind them. The crowd was behind them. You know, like you wanted to feel like it was just a natural evolution and a journey to reach the pinnacle. But this was just like her doing jobs until all of a sudden she just becomes the number one contender and then wins against the person that she's never beat.
Right?
Eh,
You had the whole MK Ultra thing, and then she came on as kind of like the hired gun for the system, just so like Alicia could get the tag team titles, and they dropped them. They flipped on her, and then yeah, here we are.
yeah, so um let's answer the let's answer the TNA houses question. Society Reviews asks, I see the houses are better for TNA, but this really matter without a better TV deal. I don't know. Well, nobody knows what they really get for their Access TV deal. I mean, it's not like, but didn't Anthem buy Access TV?
Yep, it's kind of very similar to WCW, where the same company that owns the network and the wrestling company is the same parent company.
Right. So something like that. So however that works, it's like I guess if you own all that stuff, then the money is kind of like whatever it needs to be, right? So it's really important to have those houses to get those things, because you don't know what maybe you don't know where your next meal's coming from. But they're only better because they are running the smaller venues the same way they tell everybody to. In AEW they need to book smaller venues, right, so that they can have sellouts. The only problem with that is watch TNA. Oh wait, no, you're not going to watch TNA. And it's not because of what channel they're on, because you can watch it anyway. You can watch it on the internet. You can watch it however you want. You're not watching it because when I ask people why they don't watch TNA, it's because it just looks low budget. And it does look low budget. And being in those arenas, like this place that they were in for Bound for Glory, you know, when you pull back the camera and you show the whole crowd, yeah, it's a full crowd, but you can also see that there's no upper decks or anything like that. You know? So you sold out a college gym. Not that impressive. And AEW doesn't shoot their TV so that you can see how few people there are in the building. It looks like on TV that the building has a lot of people there and the TV production looks expensive. That's what they're willing to do. But when you get what you ask for and get a smaller house that's sold out, it still looks small, and it still looks small time, and it still looks low budget. So that's, you know, that's the perception of why AEW does what they do, because they don't look cheap. They don't look as good as the WWE because nobody does. And how could they? And especially now, this WWE stepped up their production even levels above what it was, but AEW still looks pretty expensive. It doesn't look like it doesn't belong on TV in prime time. If you put TNA on TV in a primetime slot, like, no. It's going to look worse than NXT.
It looks like Adult Swim wrestling.
Right. All TNA really has is equity, because it's like a cockroach that just keeps surviving. So like people understand that it's established, but they only like hearing about it. They don't want to watch it week to week. Maybe they'll catch a big show. And then when you do stuff like this is why it's going to stay that way. It's not the main event. It's the TNA Heavyweight Championship match. It's Joe Hendry versus Dolph Ziggler, with special referee Frankie Kazarian, who is now the Call Your Shot Gauntlet Battle Royal winner, which adds a new wrinkle to his special refereeness. Just to be clear, did they ever explain why Kaz got to be appointed okay, just making sure I didn't miss it somewhere, because you know sometimes I tune these announcers out and stuff. So Joe Hendry did like a parody sort of intro video for himself. It was like 8 Mile, where he's got like the hoodie because they're in Detroit. And did like a Lose Yourself version of his, his theme song. And he came out wearing, the overalls with the hockey mask and chainsaw, I guess. If that's another reference besides just a hockey mask and chainsaw with overalls, I don't know. Did Eminem do that too? Is that something? I don't know the reference. Or is it just a random Halloween thing?
Yeah, it might have been a random Halloween thing. Hey, let's throw a Jason thing in there.
Okay, the Up in Smoke tour? Okay. I thought it might have been something like that. Because Jason, for one, doesn't use a chainsaw. And he doesn't wear overalls either. So just making sure that, yes, I did see that. Okay.
All right, that makes sense then. That now makes sense.
Right. Okay, so Detroit, Eminem, music, blonde guy. But the story of the whole match was basically the Kazarian cash-in shenanigans. Like at multiple points, he threatened to like run out and cash in his cup in the bank.
And here's the thing here's the question, the logic I had. He's the referee of this ongoing match. If he cashes in during this match, could he not count himself the winner? Like, could he not pin one of the guys and count himself the winner?
Well, that's exactly what I thought too, and there's no precedent for it, so why couldn't you? Like, but he ended up doing the first time he tried to do it, he got stopped, and then the second time he called another referee down. And then, JBL came in and gave him a clothesline from hell, and then he clotheslined Joe Hendry too. Just because. And then Joe Hendry goes back in and eventually loses. And that's why this match wasn't on last. Because they weren't about to piss everybody off that was clearly there to see this moment that you only are going to get once. And like it's your one chance to... How over can you keep somebody? TNA can't keep anybody over. They don't know how to book. It's clear. I've pointed out multiple examples on this show of how their booking is poor. Can they even sustain Joe Hendry? Or are they just like, well, this guy's gone the minute he gets a chance, so why bother? So it's the opposite of how, the WWE is like treating people, giving them like an angle on the way out to leave it open. Or like if Kevin Owens doesn't resign, because we talked about this, Jimmy and I talked about this on the wreckage. We talked about that, about Kevin Owens and his contract situation. It's like, well, if he's leaving, he's at least getting this one, huge Saudi payday with the main event wrestler before he goes. At least one of those. You know, like if this guy wasn't going to resign, it's almost like their way of enticing him to stay. Like, look, you can be working with guys like Randy Orton. You can be on top. Like, why would you want to leave? Like, that's how they're doing it. TNA, if they think Joe Hendry's about to take off for greener pastures, they're just like, well, fuck him. Let's fuck him over in the Bound for Glory main event for no reason. You got no story to follow this up. And you can't keep Joe Hendry over for another big moment, big show. Are they going to run Scotland? What else? What other time would there be to do this? And if they nailed everything else on the show, I would say, oh, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt that they got a plan in mind, right? But I don't give them the benefit of that doubt. And that's why the comment that Society said earlier about Dolph, they think keeping the belt on Ziggler will put the TNA title back on WWE television. They might think that, but it ain't. I don't see it happening. If you don't have him, if you didn't want him when you had him, why would you want him when he's gone? I mean, that's how the old regime looked at it. But yeah, this ain't a Drew McIntyre situation. So anyway, Dolph Ziggler is absolved of responsibility for JBL because he didn't see him do anything. So all he does is super kick and danger zone Joe Hendry to leave everybody disappointed. And that is not like, again, the crowd they weren't rioting about it, even though one guy had a sign that said they would. But they still weren't happy because they wanted it to be the nice moment for Joe Hendry, and we didn't get it. So because of that, we have a different main event. And then we have Santino thanking the inductees, and then we have the Hall of Fame inductees from earlier, so just a short little thing for Santino. And then we get to Full Metal Mayhem, which is just a ladder match. It's no different than any other ladder match. It's really not. Because every ladder match, even if it just says just a ladder match, they still have 20 ladders. So this was just that. Except that the mat and the ladders were all spray painted. Possibly by Jeff Hardy. Was that tipping their hand as to how this match was going to go? They did everything dumb. Just like in the PCO and Cardona match. Everything dumb you've seen in ladder matches. And that part earlier when I was talking about Chris Bay, when I heard that he had gotten hurt and I didn't know it was from the Impact tapings and not this match, there's a spot where they built this. They had one of these like little giant ladders that starts out as like a smaller ladder and you can extend it out to make like a bigger ladder. And they use that to bridge between a ladder in the middle of the ring, and they put it through so that guys could stand on it and, you know, do stuff on it or whatever. And then when they were done doing,
like it was a bridge.
Yeah, like a bridge. Yeah. So we were talking about playing with Kinects and erector sets and everything before we went on the air. And that's what it looked like they were doing. And then when they were done with their spot that they wanted to do, and they go to throw that big, giant, tangled mess of ladder out of the ring so that they can do the other spots they want to do, Chris Bay is there on the floor, and the whole thing lands on his fucking leg. And he grabbed his knee like he was from the Seth Rollins school of selling. And I was like, oh shit, did he get hurt because they threw the ladders outside the ring? They just dropped the ladders on him? Which, that wouldn't be the first time that fat fucking Brian Myers dropped a ladder on somebody and hurt him. So I was wondering if that was it, but no, apparently it was at the Impact tapings. Yeah, they just yeah, and then they did a bunch of other stuff. I don't fucking care. The Hardys won. Did you have any? I mean, what do you want to say about it? I'm sorry, I'm talking too much. Say something, Brandon. God damn it.
It was. Oh man, yeah. It was. This was yeah. This is pretty much like a nothing happening match. Like I was when this match came on as main event, I was expecting the Motor City Machine Guns to come out and they kind of do like a face off of, are we going to see like an interpromotional match between the two tag team champions?
Meaning, explain who those are.
Motor City Machine Guns, because it's in Detroit, and they just happened to very quickly flip the tag team belts, SmackDown tag team belts on the Motor City Machine Guns.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't know. When I was watching this, ladder match. I'm thinking of like what crossing my mind was, we were talking about how I got that free Stan Hansen action figure and how I was like my first choice, but it was sold out. My first choice was like Luthez or whatever. So I just picture like a guy, like one of those wrestlers from the old magazines that's doing this pose. Yeah, doing this pose, and he has like a terry cloth robe and a towel and no knee pads and stuff, and like, wrestling. And then there's this. There's guys building erector sets in the ring. They had all this time that they were coming up with these ways to configure the ladders so that they could do a spot, and in that amount of time they could have easily climbed up the ladder and grabbed the belts off, but instead they had to do a spot. And what it like, so what are people really still, are they just sitting there just watching this, not thinking about that? They're just like, oh man, who's going to get hurt next? Like, what is the thought process for a normal fan? Because I don't know what it's like to be a normal fan anymore. What do you've already seen guys do this since the Hardy Boys were doing it with Edge and Christian and the Dudleys and things like that. So from 1999 on, they've been doing these ridiculous stunt ladder whatevers. What else can you do now?
It kind of looks like they're kind of doing a greatest hits tour of like the old late 90s, early 2000s Hardys, they're just working a lot safer than they did back then. Which nobody wants to really see if somebody wants to see if you're doing that old Hardys. If anything, they kind of need to come up with something new and reinvent themselves again, which I think they could do. I don't know what's going on.
Well, that's Bound for Glory. They sent you home happy, I guess. If you like the Hardys, you're happy. If you like Joe Hendry, that's why they didn't put it last. I got nothing. A bad show for me. No highlights. Santana even managed to ruin the Moose match for me.
I'd say the whole show was let's see, 1.5 stars. I give it 2 if it was in the Tokyo Dome.
He would have gave that Mike Bailey and Vikingo match. I'm sure he's going to give that at least a high 4.
Oh, 4 stars. Yeah.
4 3/4.
4, yeah. 4, maybe 4. 4.5. That was terrible.
It's terrible. Do you have a punch up this week?
Oh, we do.
Okay. We'll punch up this fucking. I should have had the punch up after the episode, but I got carried away.
All right, so let's get to it. We go to the recap and the catch-up packet.
Delicious.
Intro, Pyro, and Ballyhoo go to the announce table, rundown card for tonight, give their thoughts on recent events, hype footage that Joe Hendry will show later of when he was jumped over the weekend. And I just now realized I totally forgot to put that in there, so I apologize. Sorry, I was kind of in a rush for today. Today was kind of fucked. I apologize. So when we go to in-ring, Joe Hendry and Nick Nemeth. Joe Hendry music and entrance. Joe Hendry says that he respects Nick Nemeth and calls him out to the ring. Oh, wait, no, I do show it. I'm stupid. Forget what I said. Okay, never mind. Oh, let's go back to reverse. Okay, in-ring, Joe Hendry and Nick Nemeth. Joe Hendry music and entrance. Joe Hendry says that he respects Nick Nemeth, calls him out to the ring. Nick Nemeth music and entrance. Joe Hendry says he's not implicating Nemeth in anything, but wants him to see what he has to show him before pointing at the big screen. Footage airs of Joe Hendry at a show before multiple men jumping from behind and beat him down. The footage ends with Hendry chasing the men to a limo that has bullhorns on the hood. Nemeth says he has no idea what's going on, but he will...
Pardon me, Brandon. Let me just jump in real quick while we're still at the start here to explain once again for Jimmy, who should fucking know better, but if he watched our show, maybe he would. Or anybody else that may be a new listener to HMG, when I close my eyes, it's because I'm trying to visualize what Brandon is saying, because it's easier for me to visualize if I think about it and imagine it. That's why I close my eyes. I'm not sleeping. I'm right here, and you'll hear my commentary if need be. So don't worry about me. It's just my listening face, like Liz said. Thank you, Liz, for covering. Brandon, please continue.
Alrighty, so the footage ends with Hendry chasing the men to a limo that has bullhorns on the hood. Nemeth says he has no idea what's going on, but he will talk to JBL and get an answer. Frankie Kazarian music and entrance. Frankie stirs the pot between Hendry and Nemeth by saying Nemeth knows exactly what's going on and is even helping with it. Frankie hints at winning the Collier Shot Gauntlet and cashing in during the world title match he's the ref for. Santino music and entrance. Santino tells Frankie that if he shows up during the contract signing later, he'll be removed from the Collier Shot Gauntlet and reffing the main event. Backstage, Mike Santana. Santana arrives and begins tearing things up. Says he will not stop until he gets his hands on Moose. Go to our first commercial break. Come back with match number 1, 6-way match, where the winner is number 20 in the Collier Shot Gauntlet Battle Royal, and the person who was pinned and submitted is number 1. Everyone already in the ring. Condensed version of the match on the show that ends with Kazarian getting pinned. Backstage, Gia and Jonathan Gresham, same as on the show. Go to a vignette of Mike Santana, same as the first one that aired on the show. In-ring launch party by Elegance, condensed version of what we got on the show. Go to the announce table. They begin talking about the Josh Alexander, Steve Macklin, Eric Young story when they say they're getting word through the headsets that someone has just arrived. Cut to the parking lot where a limo with bullhorns on the hood is seen pulling up. We go to our second commercial break. Go to a video package of the Northern Armory story so far and their feud with Macklin and Young. Match number 2, Josh Alexander versus Jonathan Gresham. Josh Alexander music and entrance. Jonathan Gresham music and entrance, condensed version of match on the show. Macklin out to make the save. Gets zip-tied and beat down afterward. Vignette, Crazy Steve. Cryptic promo about coming for the X Division Championship. Go to vignette of Mike Santana, same as the second one on the show. We go to the parking lot with Joe Hendry. He has a cameraman with him to film his confrontation with JBL. Hendry approaches the limo. The doors open and no one is in the back seat. We go to our third commercial break. We come backstage with Joe Hendry, where he's walking through the backstage area, asking everyone he comes into contact with if they've seen JBL, and they all say no. Before we see him enter Santino's office. Match number 3. Wendy Chu versus Jody Threat. Wendy Chu music and entrance with Rosemary. Jody Threat music and entrance, condensed version of match and finish on the show. Backstage, Santino's office. Hendry tells Santino that he thinks JBL is up to something. Hendry says that he can trust Nemeth, but he won't trust JBL. Santino says that he'll have extra security around the ring for the contract signing. Backstage, Gia and First Class. Gia begins to interview First Class about AJ Francis about his victory earlier. There's commotion, and the camera cuts to the back of someone in a trench coat and cowboy hat walking through the backstage area. We go to our fourth commercial break. Backstage, Nick Nemeth's locker room. He's pacing and checking his phone. There is a knock, and Nemeth tells the person to come in. Hendry enters and says that he respects Nemeth, but as a man, he means no disrespect, but has to ask, do you have any knowledge of what JBL is up to? Nemeth says he respects him for coming to him directly and says he doesn't know what JBL is thinking. He's been trying to get a hold of him before showing Hendry his call history. Hendry says he trusts Nemeth before leaving. Nemeth gets a phone call. Nemeth doesn't say anything before he hangs up and leaves his locker room. Vignette, the System, same as on the show. Match number 4, the System versus Hardys and ABC. The System, music and entrance. ABC, music and entrance. Hardys, music and entrance. Same matches on the show. The System beat down the faces before Mike Santana runs in, and he gets beat down as well. We get a vignette of Rosemary and Wendy Chu, their creative and vision and promo of how they're going to take the TNA Knockouts Tag Team Championship and what their intentions are with them and where they plan to go afterward. Backstage, Nick Nemeth's locker room. The man in the trench coat and a cowboy hat enters the locker room and closes the door behind him. Commercial break number 5. New Japan hype video. Go to the announce table. Final hard sell for Bound for Glory. In-ring double contract signing. Santino already in-ring. Gives brief introduction before he asks everyone involved to come out. Masha Slamovich, music and entrance. Jordan Grace, music and entrance. Joe Hendry, music and entrance. Nick Nemeth, music and entrance. Same as we get on the show, but no Kazarian involvement. Let me move this real quick so that way I can see the entire screen. And then, so Santino dismisses everyone, but Nemeth says that he wants to say something to Hendry with just the two of them in the ring. Santino obliges, and he, Masha, and Jordan leave the ring. Nemeth says that he respects everything that Hendry has accomplished and says that he sees a lot of similarities between the two of them. And Nemeth admits a part of him is a bit jealous of Hendry coming up in the time that he is now, because if Nemeth was as young as Hendry is, Nemeth would be a much bigger star than he is now. And he's telling Hendry that man-to-man in front of the world, he's jealous of him. Hardy comes face-to-face with Nemeth before he can respond. A bunch of guys in trench coats and cowboy hats surround the ring. They lay out the security. They attack Joe Hendry and put him through the table. And Nick Nemeth's kind of like, what the fuck's going on here? And that's how we go off the air.
Intriguing. You must purchase Bound for Glory to find out how it goes. And I would like to add that even with my listening face, I could still see better than Crazy Steve. But that will just about do it as far as our, well, not only our alternate universe version of TNA Impact, but also that's going to do it for this universe's version of the Impact Attack. We talked about a lot. And we are out of things to talk about, I think. So it's time to take it home. And if you want to follow us anywhere else, Brandon, where can they find you outside of the Impact Attack?
As always, you can catch me on Twitter, or as the kids call it these days, the X at LG Brandon Whoop. I am also on twitch.tv/LG Brandon Whoop Whoop every Wednesday night for sure, guaranteed, after the AEW Dynamite watch along. And we also, again, I don't know why I'm still slacking on this. I need to get those backlogs of Punching Up Impact to my Substack at HMG Brandon, and of course doing the watch alongs right here at HMG. Let's see what else we got going on tomorrow night. I think we might do an NXT late start. I'm not 100% sure yet. Or we might do HMG After Dark because, spooky season. Why not? Find a new fun Halloween movie.
Hey.
And then, of course, Wednesday night, we got the AEW Dynamite watch along. Take our bets on how many belts we're going to see. They've toned that down. They've really toned the belt count down.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, it was bound to happen.
And then Thursday night, we got, since it's Halloween, HMG After Dark is going to be a watch along of my favorite Halloween movie, Ernest Scared Stupid.
Man, we got to get this guy some more Halloween movies. I'm sure it's like a childhood classic favorite, right?
That's exactly, and it's and also as me and my grandfather bonded over too.
Yeah. Do you have is that your favorite Ernest movie? Or is that just your favorite Halloween movie? Because
My favorite Halloween movie, but I have to say, if I have to guess what my favorite Ernest movie is, it's a tie between Goes to Jail and Saves Christmas. That's a tough decision, right? Between those,
it's got to be Goes to Jail, though, right? I can help you make that decision. Yes, Ernest Goes to Jail is. I mean, it's not good now, but like back then, of the Ernest movies, pretty good. Everybody's like, "What the hell are they talking about?" Well, not everybody. Some people are like, "What the hell are they talking about?" Depends if you're a certain age.
Know what I mean, Vern?
Yeah, the late Jim Varney. He was good. He was good.
Did you ever catch him in Beverly Hillbillies?
I'm pretty sure I've seen that movie, yeah. But yeah, he's mostly Ernest. So I'm trying to think of like it was a character that was what was originally the commercials for? Like some cars or something? Like was it like a car dealership?
I think it was like an electric company.
Electric company? I can't remember, but it was like that, just like some nothing to do with anything but like commercials. And he spun that into like a series of films. Like what? That's like that'd be like if there was a whole movie franchise around like the Noid from Domino's or something. Like what the hell are you guys doing? Why are you doing this? But it happened. It was a different time. So yeah. All right then. Look forward to those watch alongs, and the Twitch stream is back. You got any ideas for the game this week or some games?
This week I'm kind of thinking going to Sega Genesis and going back to the very first person shooter I ever played, Zero Tolerance.
Zero Tolerance. All right. So, yeah, so check that out on Twitch. Speaking of Twitch, you can find me at Opinion Haver on all your social media platforms, including Twitch. And we just might do a little, as Liz is alluding to, a little story time with Vet. Am I going to be on Twitch very soon after we sign off and be reading a couple of selected scary stories for you guys for Halloween? Just hanging out, reading stories classically, perhaps with a flashlight under my chin. I mean, you'll just have to go to twitch.tv/opinionhaver and find out. Let's do a little quick. How do we, cause everybody's got a flashlight now, right? So is this like, does this work? Can we do this? Is this how it's going to be? Does this make my face look fat? I don't know. We don't want to do that. But yeah, we might do that. You just have to go to twitch.tv/opinionhaver and find out. And yeah, everywhere else on HMG, that's Next Level Wrestling Review with Big Ray Hernandez every Wednesday, 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. You can check me out with Jimmy T on the Wreckage every Sunday morning, 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. Check out Wrestling with Rip Rogers every Friday. Check out Stevie Rich's show every Friday. Check out JTG's YouTube channel. Check out everything. And check yourselves out of here. It's time to go. Please be careful. Everything you do out there, be safe. Have a happy Halloween. Don't do anything crazy, and be aware of everybody trying to do crazy things around you, because nobody cares about anything anymore and has no spatial awareness or social acuity. So always be aware at all times and be safe, you guys. And if you do that, you'll get right back here with us for another Impact Attack next week. But for now, for Brandon, I'm the Vet, and I don't have a sign-off line.
Check your candy for razor blades, kids.